Hi everybody, Eddie Vegas here, and I am back with part 2 of my quick start guide to Stardrive using the Blackbox and Combined Arms mods, except this time I've gone ahead and moved up to the Mars version, and I recommend that you go ahead and download it. It is pretty stable. I really haven't had any trouble with it, and I would suggest that you go ahead and do that because anyway, eventually it will be the release version, and so this video will remain relevant, hopefully. So there's a lot of stuff that I didn't talk about, so let's get started. If you remember in my last episode, I suggested that you play the humans and that you set the galaxy size to small, etc., etc. What I like to direct your attention to is the fact that you can also make a custom race. You can save it and load it if you want to play it again. At that point there, you would clear the traits and choose your own traits, some of them negative, some of them positive. And you can save that and then load it again. And also, I would like to direct your attention down here to the rule options, the save setup and load setup. You will see, actually, here's something I'd like to point out in the rule options. I highly suggest that you disable the remnant story as a beginning player. It's just going to frustrate you, and this will give you a chance. Really, it's better to learn the game mechanics and everything like that. However, keep the pirates. I think the pirates will be a good first test of your ship making ability. Also, okay, so I'll tell you what, I'm going to load my personal setup, which I wanted the remnants not to show up. And this will go ahead and put everything on the exact same settings that I had before. Oh yeah, another thing. The corners game mode. This is great. For a beginning player, it's great. You'll have your own little section to colonize, and they have their own little section to colonize. And it just makes understanding where you need to go and what planets are good to get. It just makes that a lot easier. Also, the remnants presence, you could put it on very rare. Once again, as a beginning player, this could be frustrating. And once you get everything all set up the way you like, well, you save the setup. However, when I load, I'm going to go ahead and do this again. I'm going to load setup, no remnants. Now, when I look at rule options, well, in fact, the check mark has not been checked. So don't forget, even though you may save all the settings, to come over here and uncheck this. Check this disable remnant story. All right. One thing I failed to mention at all is the fleet screen. The fleet screen up here. You click the button over here and you pick your designs and you spread them out. It's all pretty self-explanatory, to tell you the truth. What I like to do, me personally, I'm not sure this is the best way to do it, but I like to group similar types of ships together in the same fleet. That way I'm sure that they're flying at the same speed, and then I can direct them to the guy I want to kill much easier. I do have some fleets that have a mix of people, but really it's just easier to have your rocket guys all in one fleet and your laser guys in another fleet, etc., etc. You will want to have your bombers in a fleet, and you can also click here and rename it to whatever it is you want. All right, the fleet screen. Wow, this is practically the whole game right here. I love making ships. I hope you managed to find out why it's so fun. The first thing that I want to point out are the options up here. Repair options are interesting if you have perhaps some long-range ships that maybe are less armored or less shielded, and you want them to run away a little bit quicker. You can pick some of this stuff here. Also up here are the behaviors that your ship will make, and do not forget to set this before finishing up your ship there. I personally, pretty much everything is on maximum range. There are some weapons where it benefits from an attack run, but really pretty much everything for me is on maximum range. The short range will bring all your weapons into play. I'm usually what I'll have is I'll have some main weapons, and then I'll have like some close defense weapons. And honestly, I don't want those weapons to fire unless there's a target, so I'm not going to tell my ship to get up close to let them fire everything. So pretty much maximum range is pretty much my go-to thing. There's also, don't forget, avoid engaging in combat. That's good for your support ships. Okay, as you add modules to your ship, you're going to see these numbers change. And this is the main thing that you're going to need to keep track of. Really important. I'll go ahead and throw some stuff on this ship and I'll be back. Okay, I went ahead and put some kinetic turrets on this ship, and I also put a power supply. Now notice when you put a power supply that the power range is extended out here in kind of light yellow. Everything that's green is not powered yet. Slapping some of these power conduits on here. And power conduits are very effective in sending electricity or power everywhere on your ship. What I suggest is try to decide what weapons you're going to want to put on the ship, the main role of the ship. And go ahead and put those weapons on, and then put your power supply on, and then make sure everything is running. And then after that, add all the other modules. I'll be back. All right, I've added some ammo and a cockpit, and now we can take a look at these numbers down here, and we can see that quite a few things have changed. Now, it's just really hard to explain everything that we absolutely need to know, but what I suggest you do is you go ahead and get this part set up so you feel like you have enough ammo, and you feel like you have enough power, and you've got a cockpit, and you've got your weapons and everything like that. And let's go ahead and throw some armor on here. And also I wanted to talk about armor, so I'll be back. Okay, I love this power armor because it actually provides electricity. It provides power to squares adjacent to it. And this will get you out of some wiring problems if you just don't feel like adding more power modules and you just need like a little bit more power. These guys are great, I have to admit. I'm a big fan. All right, so I put some powered armor on here, and now we've pretty much got everything except for the engines. Here, the engines are under power for some reason. What I suggest you do is take off the toggle symmetry and add everything one by one, and take a look at the numbers down here as you do it. Now we see faster than light speed is not great. Sublight speed is not great. Let's go ahead and put another small engine. And we've got faster than light speed. What you really want on faster than light speed, you want it about 35, 40K. That's not going to cut it. So I'd better get a small warp engine. And I'll put this in. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, yeah, here we go. Okay, this is getting a little bit better here. 28K. Let's put another one. And now we got it up to 40K. That's pretty darn good, I have to admit. Sublight speed probably could be faster, but it's not great. And turn rate, well, okay, we're just going to have to deal with it. It's kind of a beginning ship, so whatever. So let's finish this baby out. Okay. In the end, I decided to just go for the internal bulkhead, although you could have done a lot of other things. You could have put more ordnance in there. You could have put another cockpit in there. A lot of things you could have done which would have changed these numbers down here. Now that my ship is done, the most important space right here is recharge at warp. This absolutely has to be positive, otherwise your ships will run out of warp fuel and have to stop and recharge. You definitely do not want that. And other than that, then you will just kind of want to keep track of all this stuff here. Here's your production cost, your upkeep cost, the mass 286. Your ammo time is really good, I have to admit. And this is the accuracy of your weapons, but yeah, well, that's right. You do have to worry about it because it's a gun, it's a kinetic turret, and you do have to worry about that. Also, I'd like to point out that you can actually jiggle these by putting the symmetry on and deciding where you want them to shoot. You can have them shoot to the sides, you can have them shoot to the front, you can have them shoot behind. It's pretty cool, I got to admit. Alright, so I'm going to leave those guys there. And my design is complete, and all I have to do now is just save it as my hunter test. And now I'm able to build this ship and send it into battle. Alright, before I get into the tech tree, I just want to point out the advantages of rapid building, or rush building. I started a new game and I'm getting ready to discover a thing. Let's go ahead and run it. And I have discovered my first thing, Industrial Foundation. So now I'm going to pause it. I go to my Empire screen, I go to my main capital, and I go build that stuff. So I'm going to rush it here by clicking. You can also hold control and it will just build it immediately. This actually costs money as well, so be careful with it. But basically, every time you research a new thing, at the very beginning, you should go to your capital planet and build that thing as quickly as possible, because really there you're going to be getting the most advantage for your money. And to understand why that is, we're going to have to go someplace else. Okay, in Stardrive, population is everything. It really is. Here's my capital. I have 14 billion people living there. Here's the planet I just colonized. I have 1/10 of 1 billion people living there. Here is the output from 1/10 of 1 billion people, and here's the output from 14 billion people. You want your population as big as possible to rapidly make stuff. So that's the reason why at the very beginning of the game, you've got 14 billion people, and every tech that you gain, for example, this guy, 5/10 of a research per turn and 1/10 research per assigned colonist. Well, if you have 14 billion people, you're going to be cranking out an awful lot more research than the planet with 0.1 billion people. You really need lots of population. It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. Okay, just one more thing. I want to talk about taxes. Okay, taxes. You may be wondering, why does this game not have a happiness mechanic like in every other 4X? And as you're playing, you may just think to yourself, whoa, well, I'm still making money, and nobody seems to be revolting, and so I guess I can just do whatever I want. The happiness mechanic is controlled by the taxes. Basically, at 25% tax rate, you are making 3/4 of the maximum amount of production and research. If you increase, and you're allowed to do that even though it's on auto taxes. All right, to demonstrate, I had to load a better game. Now auto tax is at 41%. I'm really only getting 3/5 of the maximum of research and production. And of course, production is going to be making your ships. So you can actually jiggle this, and if you need to build a whole bunch of ships right away, it's a good idea to reduce the taxes to get the auto taxes down to 20%. Despite the fact you've set auto taxes, you can still jiggle this, and the computer will try to make it happen. You can still regulate your taxes this way. Okay, one final thing. I suggested in the first video that you put everything on core. That's a great idea. However, there's two other settings that you might want to set. If you need to do a lot of research, you can go ahead and click it on research, and the governor will flip these knobbies around to make it all happen. Uh-oh, looks like I'm at war. You can also, if you need to build a lot of ships, set it to military. And this will actually help build quickly the ships that you're going to need. So other than that, assuming that everything's humming along, you can go ahead and put it back on core. I keep thinking of other things. When you're making a fleet, here we've got a little dinky ship here. Let's go ahead and make a fleet by going Control 1. So I've made a fleet out of this guy, and when I click here, this is the fleet. Don't forget to set the behavior here on this setting. It's the same setting that you see in the shipyard, but this controls, it seems to me that this is, if you tend to put your ships in fleets, which I do, that this is the main thing that controls how your ships are going to behave. So once again, once you've got your 6 or 8 or 10 or 20 or 50 ships, go ahead and click it on maximum range. Like, as I said, it's pretty much the go-to setting. And this way your ships, when they're in battle, they will behave the way you expect them to. The setting in the shipyard is used if they are not in part of a fleet, but my ships are always in a fleet. And finally, the tech tree. Oh boy, the tech tree, yes. It's daunting, I know. So I'm just going to give you some indications on things to look at, and you can decide what you want to do with them. In my previous video, I suggested that you go with the starting 4 techs. I still think that's good. And then go to energy and get the fusion reactor. It's always good. After that, I did suggest energy weapons, but I'd like to expand a little bit about that and just say that you need everything. You need energy weapons, you're going to need guided weapons, and you're going to need bullets. You're just going to need all those things. It's combined arms. It's really well named. And to get anywhere in this game, you're just going to have it all. Let's go ahead and go on to defense. Defense is really good. And you should head to energy shielding as quickly as possible. And of course, I just said that electro armor is my favorite. Plasteel is like is less good armor, but lighter. And armor is just basically tougher and tougher and tougher armor. But definitely energy is definitely, you want this. You definitely want this. And if you ever have a question of where to go, I would say head down this route here, because eventually you're going to get to battle shielding and then to cold shielding, and then at that point there, it's going to be pretty tough to stop you. Anyway, the main thing about energy and armor is that it's good in every ship, so you can't go wrong with it. Okay, equally here in the energy division, I would say go this route all the way to extreme antimatter. That's where you kind of want to get to, because you get these little dinky fighter antimatter reactors, and that will make your fighters a lot more versatile. In the socio-economic branch, you've got military outpost here, which you will want to do eventually so that your outposts and other planets can build troops, and you definitely need ground troops to protect. As far as this other stuff goes, the only thing I can really point to is biospheres that you may want to rush to if you just don't have any good planets. Biospheres will allow you to transform kind of crappy planets into sort of okay ones. And but other than that, you just take a look at what everything is, all this stuff down here, just mainly biospheres. In logistics, subspace projectors will get you those space roads and equally some space defense. It's really good. And while we're at it, try to get as quickly as possible to shipyards. Whoa, our shipyards good. They're really expensive, but they will allow you to make ships way cheaper. And you definitely want to get to shipyards at some point. The rest of this stuff, you can take a look at it yourself. In the guided weapon branch, well, once you get past missile theory, there's terminal missiles. And the funny thing is about this is that these guys are 2x2, but the better ones are 3x3, and then the better ones are 4x4, which require bigger ships. So as a beginning, somebody who's beginning and just basically getting maybe to frigate or something like that, you kind of want to stay with this first line, and the MIRVs are the longest range, which are good because you definitely want to stay as far back as possible. Other than that, missile defense will get you some defense on your base. You definitely want to think about that. All right, in the physics category, I definitely want to point out these, basically these are just upgrades, great upgrades for everything. Increases your Stardrive speeds at your warp speeds by 20%, all ships. It's ridiculously good. Equally, reaction drive will get your regular just jet engines 20% faster. This goes to all your ships. And this guy here, if you can eventually get there, the power penalty incurred by ships at warp is reduced by 20% and grants a 50% bonus to Empire faster than light speeds. This is ridiculously good. Other than that, up here, definitely subspace theory and then subspace communications, because subspace communications will get you some better sensors. And what I like to do, and I forgot to mention this on the fleet screen, what I like to do when I make my fleet is I like to put a sensor behind it, scout. And then eventually when I get this, I will go ahead and make a ship with just this thing on it and not much else. And this way you get more vision. I mean, it's a war game, and the more vision you have, the better it is. In the ballistics category, ballistics are kind of funny because you basically need, once you get past here, you're basically going to need like really pretty big ships to be able to handle these weapons that are up here in the, let's say, second tier of stuff. So you might just want to concentrate on just your normal magnetic artillery. And by the way, let me just say that in my opinion, the Railgun is the best gun in the game. The only thing that it is wrong with it is that it's not accurate. But many times in the beginning of the game, you're going to be facing a lot of dinky ships. And it doesn't really matter if it's accurate or not, because it's going to definitely hit something. It's going to hit a mass of dinky ships. So it's got good range. It cannot be intercepted by incoming point defense. And it's 1x3. You can put it on a reasonably small ship. Definitely, in my opinion, Railgun, best gun in the game. Not much to say about the starship construction. You just get bigger and bigger stuff. You'll want to explore all this stuff yourself, but basically, yeah, you get the fighters, and you get the corvettes, and you get the frigates, and you keep on going and get bigger and bigger. And finally, upgrades. Upgrades are just good, period. They give to your entire empire. You can't go wrong with them. If ever you get to a point where you go, what do I do now? Just come here and do all of this. Also, a special mention for the velocity package. Many times what you're going to find is once you built your ship, that it's lacking a little bit faster than light speed, or maybe it's kind of slow on the regular, jet engine kind of thing, or you want your ship to have a little bit more maneuverability. This velocity package is great for that because you're allowed to stick them on outer chunks of your spaceship without it being a dedicated engine slot. So this will allow you to kind of jiggle the the speeds of your faster than light and your regular light speed, it's definitely, I would go for this pretty quickly. And I believe that brings to a close my quick start, which is not so quick anymore, but my quick start guide to Stardrive, along with the Blackbox Mars, which again I suggest you get, and the Combined Arms mod. The last thing I'll say is this is a tough game. The pirates are tough. The remnants are really tough, and depending on what kind of remnants you run into, they are ridiculously tough. You might be frustrated at the beginning, but stick with that idea of the combined arms, that you're going to need a little bit of lasers and some fighters and some corvettes and some frigates and some bigger ships and some support ships, etc., 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 and make a complete fleet out of the whole thing so that it's self-sufficient, and you will do better. All right. Thanks for listening. See ya.